Hi guys, my name is Cedric and this is the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Well, it's been over a month now, and in this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and suggestions to all of you guys who are curious and for those of you who actually want to purchase this phone. So let's get right into the video. So the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which most of you probably know by now, is the biggest, the baddest, and the most pro phone from Apple's 5G lineup this year. There are 4 colors to the Pro models this year. If you're not aware already, there's the gold, graphite, silver, and this Pacific blue, and definitely this color is my favorite on any iPhone yet. The edges are flat, unlike the curved edges from the past. I honestly really like that Apple revisited this design that was previously introduced with the iPhone 4. I know a lot of people have been commenting on how sharp the sides and the edges feel and how uncomfortable it feels, but let me just say, I think it actually feels really nice, and I think people are also exaggerating a little bit on the size of the phone. To my hands, which I consider pretty average sized hands, it's actually pretty comfortable. That said, I don't recommend you use this phone one-handed. When I said pretty comfortable, I meant with 2 hands, definitely not one hand. I'm comparing it here to an iPhone 6s Plus, and if you guys remember this phone, this was Apple started making bigger phones, and it's sort of visible that this year's Pro Max is actually a tad bit taller than the 6s Plus, and also the 11 Pro Max from last year. And it's also surprisingly a little bit thinner, and that's possibly because of the battery in the 12 Pro Max, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, one of the main deciding factors for many of you is the display. And let me just say this, the display on this phone is absolutely gorgeous. For comparison, the size is upgraded from a 6.5 on the 11 Pro Max to a 6.7 inch now, and also a 6.1 inch on the 12 Pro and the regular 12. And speaking of the display, this is a Super Retina XDR display using OLED, and Apple's obviously done an amazing job by improving their display in this phone from last year's, as this has a better resolution. Here's a quick rundown on the display specs. It's got a peak brightness of up to 1200 nits when viewing HDR content, and 2 million to 1 contrast ratio, and 3.4 million pixels, and I believe that's the highest amount of pixels ever on an iPhone. Moving on, let's talk about the build quality. The textured matte glass back, in contrast to the stainless steel sides, is really beautiful. But as much as I love the stainless steel sides and its quality feel, the first time I held this phone, an inescapable cost of having stainless steel sides is that it catches fingerprints. But I'm okay working with fingerprints as long as I get stainless steel sides, because it just feels so high quality. Adding on to the build quality of the phone, Apple calls this a surgical grade stainless steel frame, and on the 12 mini and the regular 12, it's called aerospace grade aluminum frame. And all 4 of these phones do have ceramic shields on the front, and Apple claims it's got 4 times improved draw performance. In addition, the whole lineup is also IP68 for better water resistance than the 11 Pro Max. By the way, I do have a screen protector on the phone. I would hate to see a scratch on this phone, so I do highly recommend you guys do the same. I'll have a bunch of links down below in the description, and you guys can check that out once you're done with this video. If we look at the sides, there's the regular power button, volume buttons, and a silent mode switch. At the bottom, you'll see the usual stereo speakers. Once again though, no headphone jack, and once again, lightning. So how do you charge this phone? Well, if you've got an existing iPhone charger, then just use that with the lightning port at the bottom. But here's where MagSafe comes in, with up to 15 watts. Unfortunately, I don't have a MagSafe charger with me, so I can't show you how this works, but I'll show you clips from the Apple event. And it's pretty cool. This is something you can definitely get excited for. As you can see here, there's a magnet inside the back of the phone, and you can literally just place the MagSafe on the back of the phone and it'll latch on, even if you have one of Apple's cases on. So if you're thinking of buying an iPhone 12 this year and you're not sure whether you want to buy the MagSafe or not, I know it's pretty expensive, but I think it's likely going to stick around for a while, so you should probably consider it. Some of the key features found on the iPhone 12 Pro Max is the LiDAR depth sensor that's found in the iPad Pro this year. A huge plus for AR enthusiasts, whether it's for gaming or just using the Measure app on your phone, or for better autofocus and portrait shots in low light. Overall, it's a big plus for the camera system. For specs, I believe it's 6 times faster autofocus in low light, which is really nice. You're also getting 87% better low light photos, which is truly impressive. Now, I haven't compared the 12 Pro with the 12 Pro Max's cameras, but if it's 87% better, then there definitely has to be some difference between the two. There's also HDR video recording that you can now use with Dolby Vision for up to 60 frames per second with the front-facing camera. The front-facing camera on this phone also has Deep Fusion and Night Mode. So basically, the main upgrades are with the camera. So keep that in mind. The main upgrades on this phone are with the camera, so if you're going to be using your phone's camera extensively, this might be the winner. Then there's the upgraded A14 Bionic chip, along with 6 gigs of RAM, which is basically a big boost in performance. And it really should be because Apple claimed it to be the fastest chip on any smartphone. But although the hardware is really good, it doesn't have a display with a high refresh rate. It's only 60 Hz this year. Forget the flagships, almost all Android phones nowadays have a faster refresh rate than this. Nevertheless, you are still getting a really fast phone, and that shouldn't be too big of a negative. One of the main differences between the 12 Pro Max and the 12 Pro, other than the obvious size, is that it's got a better camera system like I mentioned before. As stated on the Apple website, it comes with a larger sensor for the wide camera that increases light gathering, and there's also the new sensor shift optical image stabilization technology on the wide camera, which stabilizes the actual sensor for steadier shots. And the new telephoto is also equipped with a little extra optical zoom. You also get significantly better low light photos with this guy than before. It is the same triple camera system from last year with a wide angle, ultra wide, and a telephoto lens. There's also Apple Pro RAW that came out for the Pro lineup. And to enable this, first make sure that you're on iOS 14.3, and then go into the settings, into camera, and then at the very top, click on formats, and then enable Pro RAW. Lastly, let's talk about battery, and this is one of the places where you definitely do not want to compromise because you want to be able to use your phone comfortably for the entire day. Now, this phone is the biggest phone that Apple has to offer, and although this phone's got the biggest battery compared to other iPhone 12s, it's actually not as big as 11 Pro Max, which is kind of a bummer because usually a bigger phone equates to a bigger battery, but in this case we got a thinner phone. How much screen on time you get would also differ from person to person. Depends on the apps you use, how you maintain your phone, and a bunch of different other things. The battery is still amazing, don't get me wrong. It gets me through a whole day, no problem, not at all. It is smaller than 11 Pro Max like I stated, but there's absolutely no issues with the battery on this phone. I assume that the reason for why the battery would be so good is probably because of the efficient A14 Bionic chip. And I think the final question is, should you go for the iPhone 12 Pro or the 12 Pro Max, or even wait for next year's iPhone lineup? Assuming you aren't considering the iPhone 12 and the 12 mini. Is the price difference of 100 USD or here in Canada a difference of 150 Canadian dollars worth the upgrade from the 12 Pro to the 12 Pro Max? Well, although I haven't really used the 12 Pro, you are getting a bigger display on the 12 Pro Max, right? So it is going to be better for watching videos, playing games, texting, writing up emails. And as far as I know for right now, I think the better camera system that the Max boasts over the 12 Pro would only be an advantage for people taking photos on a regular basis, and especially for those of you who are taking low light photos. And if you're just a regular user who doesn't care about the bigger sensor, the bigger battery, the bigger display, presumably even a better camera system, if that's not too big of an issue for you, I would say save some cash and go ahead and go for the iPhone 12 Pro. Or even better, save up now and wait for what Apple has to offer next year. There may be new colorways for next year too. We know typically iPhones do get better with the next generation, and I say typically because if you guys remember a few years back when they took out the headphone jack, that wasn't really better. But on the plus side, maybe next year you'll see USB-C instead of Lightning, or maybe no ports at all. But that's it for this review style video after a good month of using this phone. If you guys have any questions, comments, compliments, you can leave them down below and I would love to read and answer them. A sub to the channel would also be really appreciated. But other than that, thank you for watching and I'll see you later.